The first thing you need to understand about the situation in Gaza right now is that Hamas are on their last legs, and they know that the only way that they can cling on to hope of surviving is by creating international pressure to force Israel to stop fighting, and thus they can survive, regroup, and continue their modern Nazi quest to destroy the Jewish people and the Jewish state. So you have to understand that as a first base principle. And then you look at what's happening right now and the fact that they're stealing aid, looting aid, and they know that if they can just extend the war a little bit and use more of their people as pawns to suffer and withhold the hostages, they know that maybe they can get the international community to pressure Israel to walk away. Israel cannot do that, of course, but that's the first thing you need to understand. The second thing to understand is that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is designed to bypass, to circumvent Hamas. Hamas want their people to suffer. By Israel saying, we're not going to let the Gazans suffer, we're not going to play to Hamas's plan, that doesn't work for Hamas. And that explains why we're seeing some of the chaos around the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, despite the fact they've fed millions of people with millions of meals provided. But nonetheless, we're seeing lots of information, misinformation clearly, and, we need to get to the truth of what's happening. Matty Friedman from the Free Press has written something which I think summarizes the situation quite well. The journalist for the Free Press, Matty Friedman, he said, reports of impending hunger engineered by Israel in Gaza have been commonplace not just since the beginning of this war, but for at least a decade and a half. Since Hamas seized the territory and Israel and Egypt imposed a blockade that supposedly turned Gaza into an open-air prison, the famine never materialized. The transformation of truth-telling institutions into ideological megaphones has had a high price for citizens in liberal societies and for the institutions themselves. Don't forget, by the way, one of the heads of the UN, Tom Fletcher, said a few months ago, Gaza is just 48 hours away from mass starvation. That turned out not to be true. Sadly, we can't even trust people in positions of authority in the West and in international institutions. Matty continued, one of the most awful prices was made clear this past week with reports of acute hunger in Gaza. In a blizzard of ideological fiction, how are sane citizens in Israel or anywhere else supposed to know what's true and to do the right thing? It's not an exaggeration to say, as we're seeing right now, that the answer to this question can be a matter of life and death. I called several trusted colleagues, veteran Israeli journalists intimately involved in covering events here and concerned both with the health of our society and that of innocent Palestinians. The consensus was that there was nearly no trustworthy sources regarding reality in Gaza. I don't know if people are dying directly from hunger as is being claimed in Gaza, but there is hunger in Gaza and we need to state this loud and clear, said Ohad Hemo, Palestinian affairs reporter for Channel 12 News, Israel's most widely watched news program. Israel, in panic mode, began airdropping aid this weekend along with Jordan and the UAE and has declared humanitarian pauses to let food reach civilians, essentially unilateral ceasefires without any reciprocation from Hamas. Israel says Hamas bears the responsibility, as the group has diverted aid both to hoard for its fighters and to sell to finance the war, but internationally nearly all the blame has been directed at Israel. Earlier this year, Israel began trying to conclusively break Hamas's control of food by providing it through a new organisation, American-run and Israeli-affiliated, called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Because the GHF is an acute threat to its power, Hamas has been doing what it can to foment unrest around its distribution sites, kill its workers, and intimidate people accepting its food. This has led to chaotic scenes of thousands of men descending on the distribution sites and picking them clean, coming into dangerous and sometimes fatal contact with Israeli soldiers who are understandably scared of disguised Hamas fighters and unprepared for the kind of mass chaos they're expected to control. The disaster Hamas has engineered in Gaza fuels the global campaign against Israel. That's presumably why the crescendo of hunger stories coincided on Friday with reports that Hamas has now hardened its positions in the talks, leading to their suspension. The Palestinians who started the war and who constructed the twisted battlefield on which it has been fought won't act to save their own people. Starvation and death serve the Hamas plan. That means that Israel must decide how far it wants to push and when to stop. I think this gives quite a bit of clarity to a fog of war and a foggy situation right now. But you have to understand these two primary facts that I said here. Number one, that this is Hamas's strategy to make their own people suffer. And number two, that the information is an information war, or rather a disinformation war. And so we need to be critical thinking when we receive the information that we do. And then point number three, Israel is doing all it can to circumvent Hamas's strategy to make its own people suffer, to bring pressure on Israel. And it's a very tricky situation for them, because the international community seems to play directly into Hamas's hands. They fall for their lies and for their sick strategy. Ironically, it would seem that actually it is Israel who shows far more respect for Gazan life than the international community do, who are playing into Hamas's rulebook. If there's anything we know about Hamas, it's that they have utter disdain for their own people's lives. The Islamic Republic of Iran. For over 4 decades, its leaders have stood defiantly, their voices thundering through Tehran's streets, chanting death to Israel and waging a relentless war on the West. But what fuels this fierce, unyielding hatred? Is it politics? A grab for regional power? Or something even more profound? A theology that casts Israel and the West as cosmic enemies in a divine battle for the end of days. In this JTV Plus documentary, we embark on a journey to unravel the apocalyptic beliefs at the core of Iran's revolution. We'll uncover the sacred Shia doctrines that prophesy a world reborn through chaos, where a hidden redeemer, the Mahdi, will rise to vanquish evil, with Israel and America as the ultimate foes. We'll dive deep into the mystical visions of a global Islamic order, where martyrdom and jihad pave the path to divine victory. We'll explore how these ancient beliefs shape Iran's every move, from its fiery rhetoric to its deadly proxy wars. From the revolutionary sermons of Ayatollah Khomeini, who ignited a nation, to the shadow wars of spies, cyber attacks, and missiles that have pushed the region to the brink. We'll trace the arc of a regime bent on reshaping history, and we'll reveal the climactic moment when Israel struck back with Operation Rising Lion, a daring, high-stakes operation that shook the world and redefined the conflict. This is not just a story of a nation, but of a creed that seeks to rewrite the future, a conflict that threatens to engulf us all. Join us as we expose the hidden truths behind what Iran sees as its sacred mission, its unrelenting rage, and the battle for our world's destiny. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.